A catastrophic winter storm is about to slam into 80 to 100 million Americans this week, and the forecast models just shifted dramatically in the last 6 hours. If you live anywhere between Texas and New England, the next 7 days could bring conditions we have not seen in years. The question is not if this storm will hit. The question is, where will the worst devastation strike, and will your family be ready when it does? Right now, meteorologists are tracking what could become one of the most dangerous winter events of the decade. We are talking about a massive system that is going to dump heavy snow, crippling ice, and bone-chilling temperatures across nearly half of the United States. But here is what makes this storm particularly treacherous. The exact line between a beautiful snow day and a devastating ice catastrophe is still shifting, and it will not be finalized until Thursday night. Let me show you what we know for certain. On Friday, January 23rd into Saturday, January 24th, weather forecasters have issued a 15% probability zone for severe winter storm conditions, stretching from Denver, Colorado, all the way to Kentucky. That is not a small area. We are talking about Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, and dozens of major metropolitan areas, all sitting directly in the crosshairs of this developing monster. Think about that for a second. 15% probability might not sound alarming until you understand what that number actually means. In weather forecasting, when the National Weather Service puts out a 15% probability for a winter storm 5 days in advance, they are seeing something significant in the data. They are seeing multiple computer models agreeing on a dangerous setup. They are confident enough to warn millions of people to start preparing now. The mechanics of this storm are already in motion, and they are textbook perfect for a historic winter event. We have got a massive reservoir of Arctic air pouring down from Canada right now. That cold air is going to settle in across the central United States like a heavy blanket. Temperatures at the surface are going to plunge to levels we typically only see in late January or February. Meanwhile, a storm system is organizing in the southwestern United States, and it is going to start pulling warm, moist air northward from the Gulf of Mexico. Here is where it gets dangerous. That warm, moist air is going to ride up and over the cold air sitting at the surface. When that happens, you create what meteorologists call a frontal boundary or transition zone, and it is in that transition zone where all hell breaks loose. Some areas will see heavy snow. Other areas will see sleet. But the most dangerous precipitation of all is freezing rain, and right now, multiple forecast models are screaming that we could see a significant ice storm impact millions of people. Let me be crystal clear about something. Ice storms are not like snowstorms. When you get 6 inches of snow, it is inconvenient. You shovel your driveway, you drive carefully, life goes on. But when you get half an inch of ice accumulation on power lines, on trees, on roads, entire regions can be paralyzed for days or even weeks. We are talking about widespread power outages. We are talking about trees snapping and crashing through homes. We are talking about roads that become impossible to travel even with 4-wheel drive vehicles. And we are still too far out to tell you exactly where that ice is going to fall. Will it be Dallas? Will it be Little Rock? Will it be Nashville? The models are still working that out. But someone in that corridor from Northeast Texas through Tennessee and Kentucky is going to get absolutely hammered with ice. It is not a question of if, it is a question of where and when. Now stick with me, because at the 30-second mark, I promised you something valuable. Here it is. If you comment below with your city and state, I will personally review the latest forecast data for your specific location and reply with what you need to know. That is not a generic forecast. That is a targeted look at what this storm means for your neighborhood. Drop that comment right now while you are thinking about it. As we push forward to Saturday, January 24th into Sunday, January 25th, the threat zone expands dramatically and shifts eastward. We are now looking at an impact area stretching from northeast Texas and Louisiana all the way through the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, into the Mid-Atlantic region, and even parts of New England. 80 to 100 million people live in this expanded threat zone. Let that number sink in. 100 million Americans could be dealing with winter weather impacts from this single storm system. The southern edge of this storm is where we are most concerned about ice accumulation. Cities like Dallas, Fort Worth, Shreveport, Little Rock, Memphis, and Nashville all need to be watching this very closely. Current model guidance suggests that these areas could see significant freezing rain Saturday into Sunday. We are talking about the potential for over half an inch of ice accumulation in some locations. That is enough to snap power lines. That is enough to bring down trees. That is enough to make roads completely impassable. Meanwhile, the northern edge of this storm has the potential to produce very heavy snow. And I mean heavy snow. Some of the more aggressive computer models are showing snowfall totals that would be remarkable even by winter standards. We are seeing numbers like 12 inches, 18 inches, some models even hinting at 2 feet of snow in certain locations. Now, I need to be honest with you. Those are model projections, and models can be wrong. But the fact that multiple models are showing significant snow potential tells us that this is a real possibility we need to take seriously. Places like southern Illinois, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, West Virginia, western Virginia, and the Appalachian Mountains could see substantial snowfall from this system. If you live in those areas and you have been waiting for that big snowstorm of the season, this could be it. But remember, with significant snow comes significant problems. We are talking about difficult or impossible travel, potential roof loading issues on structures, and prolonged recovery times, especially in rural areas. Here is something fascinating that the models are showing. This is not going to be a quick-moving storm. Most winter storms race across the country in 24 to 48 hours, and then they are gone. This system is going to be slow, painfully slow. We are talking about winter weather impacts lasting from Friday evening all the way through Monday evening in some locations. That is 3 to 4 days of continuous winter weather, 3 to 4 days of hazardous roads, 3 to 4 days of potential power outages, 3 to 4 days of disruption to daily life. The slowness of this storm creates another problem. As the system finally moves into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast on Sunday into Monday, it is going to try to become what meteorologists call a nor'easter. A nor'easter is a powerful coastal storm that can produce tremendous amounts of snow in a very short period of time. The I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. through Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston all need to be paying attention to this possibility. If this storm phases correctly, if all the pieces come together just right, we could be looking at a major snow event for the Mid-Atlantic. I am talking about snowfall totals that could exceed 1 foot in major cities. Some model runs are showing close to 2 feet of snow in parts of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and New Jersey. Richmond, Virginia keeps showing up in the model data with very impressive snow totals. Now again, this requires everything to come together perfectly, and that does not always happen. But the potential is there, and that potential is significant enough that people in those areas need to start thinking about preparedness. Let me show you what the GFS model, that is the Global Forecast System model, one of our primary forecast tools, is currently depicting. Keep in mind, this is just one model, and it will change, probably significantly, over the next 48 hours. But it gives us a snapshot of what we might be dealing with. The GFS shows precipitation breaking out late Thursday, January 22nd into Friday, January 23rd. By Friday afternoon at 5 p.m., it is showing snow in Wichita, Kansas, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. But look at that transition zone just to the south. That pink and purple area represents sleet and freezing rain. Do not get fixated on the exact placement of those colors right now. By tomorrow, that freezing rain line could shift 100 miles north or 100 miles south. The snow coverage could expand dramatically or it could shrink. We are looking at this to understand the general setup, not to make final preparations. But as we advance the model forward in time, it shows snow potentially moving into Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas. The GFS actually depicts a rather frightening scenario for the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. It is showing the potential for a significant ice storm impacting over 7 million people in North Texas. That scenario is absolutely on the table, but it could also change substantially. What really catches my attention, though, is what the GFS does as we get into Saturday night and Sunday. Instead of organizing a classic storm system, it shows more of what we call an overrunning event. All that moisture and energy just gets pushed rapidly eastward without really consolidating into a well-defined low-pressure system. It is like a slip and slide of precipitation racing across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. I have been forecasting winter storms for many years, and I have to tell you, that solution does not feel right to me. Other models are showing a more organized storm system that develops and then lifts northeastward in a more traditional pattern. The GFS progression seems too progressive, too fast, too disorganized. But here is the remarkable thing the GFS is showing. It is depicting ice potential all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We could be talking about freezing rain in Austin, Texas, and San Antonio, Texas on Saturday, snow in northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, heavy snow in North Carolina, and then it races all of that eastward at an almost unrealistic pace. I have never seen a winter storm behave quite like what the GFS is showing, so I am skeptical of that particular solution. However, it does illustrate just how far south this cold air is going to penetrate and how far south we could see winter precipitation. That is valuable information, even if the exact timing and evolution is off. We will have much better model data to work with by tomorrow, and we will dive deep into those details. What we can say with high confidence is that this storm is going to impact a tremendous number of people this weekend. The national blend of models, which takes the European model, the GFS model, the Canadian model, and several others and averages them together, is actually a pretty reliable way to look at snowfall potential several days out. It is not perfect, and it will change, but it gives us a consensus view of what the computer models are thinking. Right now, the national blend is painting a snowfall bullseye over Oklahoma and Kansas, where many locations could see more than 6 inches of snow. But there is another really interesting bullseye showing up over Virginia. When you average all the models together, they are showing over 1 foot of snow in Richmond, Virginia. Some individual model runs are depicting close to 2 feet of snow in that area. That is a significant signal, and it is something we are going to watch very closely over the next 48 hours. Somebody in this impact zone is going to get absolutely crushed by snow. This is the storm that snow lovers have been waiting for all season. This is the big one. But here is what I need you to understand. If you are somebody who is rooting for this storm because you love snow, there is a very real possibility that you end up on the ice side of the equation instead. And there is going to be someone, maybe multiple states worth of people, who experience a prolific and potentially crippling ice storm. Ice is not good. Freezing rain is not fun. This is the kind of system that can cause enormous problems if a major ice storm sets up over a large populated area. We are hoping for the best outcome, but we are definitely preparing for the worst-case scenario. Do not be scared, but absolutely be prepared. Tomorrow we will have much more specific information about what you should be doing to prepare once we have a clearer picture of the storm track and precipitation types. Now, here is something we can be very confident about regardless of whether you get snow or ice. Brutal cold is coming. A massive Arctic air mass is going to plunge southward this week, and it is going to bring temperatures down to levels that are dangerous and in some cases life-threatening. On Friday morning, January 23rd, we are looking at 0 degrees Fahrenheit in Springfield, Illinois, -9 degrees in Chicago, Illinois. And these are the actual air temperatures without factoring in wind chill. Remember, there is going to be a storm system moving through at the same time, so winds are going to be cranking. When you add wind to these temperatures, the wind chill values become absolutely brutal. We are talking about -29 degrees and -30 degrees Fahrenheit in places like Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Fargo, North Dakota. With the wind, we could be approaching -50-degree wind chills across the northern plains and upper Midwest on Friday morning. That kind of cold is dangerous. That is frostbite in minutes cold. That is hypothermia in less than an hour cold. If you live in those areas, you need to be making preparations now. Make sure your heating system is working properly. Make sure you have backup heating sources. Make sure your vehicle has a winter survival kit. Make sure you are not going to be caught outside in those conditions unprepared. But the Arctic air does not stop in the northern states. This cold is going to surge all the way down into the deep south. St. Louis, Missouri is going to barely reach 8 degrees on Friday morning. Even here in Tennessee, we are going to see temperatures well below freezing, and here is where it gets particularly dangerous for ice formation. We are going to have that shallow layer of very cold air sitting at the surface, but much warmer air above it. When precipitation falls through that setup, it starts as rain in the warm layer, then freezes when it hits the cold surface. That is how you get freezing rain. If it is raining and 25 degrees in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Friday morning, that is a disaster scenario. And that is very possible based on current model trends. Let me advance this forward so you can see just how far south the cold air is going to penetrate. By Sunday morning, January 25th, we are going to have freezing temperatures all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Dallas could be in the teens. Oklahoma City could be in the teens. St. Louis at 17 degrees. We will be in the single digits across large portions of Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. It is just going to be cold, bitter cold. And that cold is going to persist after the storm system moves through. If we do end up with a major ice storm somewhere, it could be several days before temperatures climb back above freezing in those affected areas. That means the ice stays, the power lines stay down, the tree damage remains, the roads stay impassable. Cold temperatures after an ice storm add insult to injury and make recovery much more difficult and time-consuming. Now, if all of that was not enough to think about, we also have a rare space weather alert to discuss. The Space Weather Prediction Center has issued a severe geomagnetic storm watch for Tuesday, January 20th. That is tomorrow. We are likely going to get impacted by another coronal mass ejection from the sun. We have got a bunch of plasma and solar wind heading toward Earth right now. The last time this happened a few weeks ago, we only got clipped by the edge of the solar material, but it still produced some pretty impressive aurora displays. This eruption was particularly intense. It was an X 1.9 class solar flare, which is a very powerful category of solar flare. That flare launched a coronal mass ejection somewhat toward Earth, and even though we are only going to get hit by the edge of it, the sheer power of the eruption means we could see some significant effects. The most visible effect will be aurora lights potentially visible much farther south than normal. If you are somebody who wants to see the northern lights and you live anywhere in the northern United States, your odds are quite good tonight through tomorrow night. I will have more detailed updates on social media if you want to follow along with the aurora forecast. This does not look like it is going to be a G5 level storm, which is the most extreme category, but we are under a G4 watch. A G4 geomagnetic storm can produce auroras visible as far south as Tennessee, Oklahoma, and northern Texas, especially with a cell phone camera. Every time we have one of these space weather events, there is a lot of misinformation on social media about grid failures and electronic catastrophes and doomsday scenarios. Let me be clear. This is not the end of the world. You do not need to charge every electronic device you own. You do not need to remove your car battery. You do not need to unplug everything in your house. You do not need to hide in a bunker with a tinfoil hat. It is going to be fine. But it is a cool, natural phenomenon, and if you are in the right location with clear skies, you might see something spectacular. So let us recap what we know about this developing winter storm situation. Starting Friday and continuing through Monday, a major winter storm system is going to impact anywhere from 80 to 100 million Americans. The storm is going to produce some combination of heavy snow, significant ice accumulation, and dangerous cold temperatures across a massive area from Texas to New England. The exact details of who gets what type of precipitation are still being worked out by the forecast models, but we should have much better clarity within the next 24 to 48 hours. The southern portions of the impact zone are at highest risk for significant ice accumulation. The northern portions have the potential for very heavy snow. The mid-Atlantic and northeast could see a major snow event if the storm phases correctly as it moves up the coast. Regardless of precipitation type, everyone in the impact zone is going to experience dangerous cold with temperatures well below normal for late January. Here is what you need to do right now. First, comment below with your location so I can give you a more specific forecast for your area. Second, start thinking about your preparedness supplies. Do you have enough food and water to last several days if you cannot leave your house? Do you have flashlights and batteries in case of power outages? Do you have a way to heat your home if the power goes out? Do you have necessary medications? Do you have a full tank of gas in your vehicle? Third, pay attention to forecast updates over the next few days. This situation is going to evolve rapidly, and what looks like a snow forecast today could become an ice forecast tomorrow or vice versa. You need to stay informed and be ready to adjust your plans accordingly. Fourth, if you have travel plans this weekend, seriously consider changing them. This is not the weekend to take unnecessary risks on the roads. If you do not have to travel, do not travel. Tomorrow, we are going to have significantly more details to share with you. We will be able to talk about specific snowfall amounts in specific locations. We will be able to narrow down where the ice threat is most significant. We will be able to give you more concrete information about timing and impacts. But right now, this is your early warning. This is your heads up that something major is developing, and you need to start paying attention and preparing. This is almost certainly going to be the kind of storm that we will do multiple videos per day about as it gets closer. We will probably go live during the peak of the storm to provide real-time updates. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you do not miss any of the updates. We are going to be covering this on every platform. Check back tomorrow for a much more detailed update with specific numbers and locations. Now, here is something you absolutely need to know that we are going to cover in detail tomorrow. The weather models are showing something really unusual in how this storm develops, and it could mean the difference between 6 inches of snow and 2 feet of snow for some major cities. That critical detail is going to determine whether this becomes a memorable snow event or a truly historic one. We will break down exactly what to look for in tomorrow's video. You will not want to miss it because that piece of the forecast is going to determine everything. Remember, drop your location in the comments right now, and I will personally get back to you with what this storm means for your specific area. We are tracking this together, and we are going to get through it together. Check back tomorrow for the next update.